Story 1. When I was in music production school, they told us that there wasn't much money in it anymore because streaming services had changed the landscape. So, I decided to make audiobooks instead, since people still actually pay for those. I wanted to share our first audiobook, which just came out a week ago. Thank you to anyone who checks it out. Story 2. I studied journalism, but that was a long time ago in the 1990s. Based on the articles I read now, I highly doubt anyone is studying it anymore. Story 3. Sometimes all that matters is having a degree. Educational institutions teach many valuable soft skills that employers appreciate. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in theology and currently work in healthcare strategy and operations. Although these degrees may not seem technically useful, I have found the skills I acquired, especially in critical thinking and problem structuring, to be invaluable in my career. Story 4. My best friend has a doctor of philosophy in cartography and used to joke that she was the most educated person working at Walmart. Story 5. Getting into graphic design right now seems exciting, but I see people doing it all the time. Artificial intelligence is rapidly evolving. Story 6. Almost any college degree is valuable for securing employment. Each time you complete a job application, it requests your educational history. Without a degree, you are typically at a disadvantage compared to those who possess one. Story 7. Oddly, most of the doctors I know have taken an indirect path in their education. One individual is a former woodshed instructor with a master's degree in education, specializing in fine arts. Another is a sculptor who holds a bachelor's degree in fine arts with a focus on Italian art. Yet another is a genuine maestro and vocalist of some note in opera, with a master's degree in music. One woman began her studies in industrial arts. Another woman started her career in fine arts. Some of the best programmers I know have degrees in English. Story 8. The idea that you need a particular degree to get a job isn't really true. You can major in a social science and work in business. I know quite a few people who went into consulting from college with a social science or other so-called useless degree. A large part of degrees like this is the ability to synthesize information, which is a very useful skill in the real world. A lot of it is simply having a college degree at all. Of course, some degrees have a more direct relation to careers such as engineering and computer science. It's unfortunate, but in many cases, it is more important where you graduated from. Story 9. The issue is that many people view undergraduate work as a white-collar trade school. Academicians never designed it that way. College is where you learn to approach a subject, analyze it, and think critically while studying various components. A degree is not a certificate of competence. It is evidence that you undertook and completed a long-term project. Engineers and architects still need to gain office experience and pass licensing exams. Accountants can work as bookkeepers but do not need degrees to do so. If you want to become a certified public accountant, you must take additional courses, complete a practicum, and, as I recall, pass for examinations. I cannot comment on information technology or computer science topics. My Bachelor of Arts is in art history. Then I attended law school. A couple of my classmates went to medical school. Story 10. I work in video games. Nobody cares about degrees. There are many people with degrees in fields like biology, but they are gameplay designers. Additionally, do not pursue a degree for game development. It is not necessary. Story 11. I think it's sad for society that college has become a trade school. One of the benefits of higher education is to create a deeper shared knowledge of our culture, engage with difficult material, build critical thinking skills, and explore areas of interest that may not be available in a smaller high school setting. People dismissing useless majors are also dismissing the very knowledge that built this country. From lessons learned in classical literature to communicating with different perspectives, research methodologies, understanding history, and tapping into personal creativity to drive innovation. Learning how to critically interpret media would be invaluable to everyone in today's media-saturated environment. I believe in a liberal arts education, whether it's an engineer taking communication and literature classes or art students taking basic programming, mathematics, and physics classes. All knowledge can be valuable, and we shouldn't dismiss or disdain people who choose to pursue something different. Story 12. Honestly, I used to believe that some degrees were useless. In terms of job market relevance, that can be true. However, after the last few months, we need to prioritize education again. I don't care what degree you obtain. Becoming more educated and being around others who are also becoming more educated is a win for society. Story 13. I think these degrees are still needed to some extent. My close friend works for the government, and they just required her to have any degree. My other friend studied gender studies and now owns her own therapy clinic. Story 14. Following professional degrees based solely on market demand has led to the emergence of individuals in technology and finance who are negatively impacting the world. Something needs to change. Story 15. The reason we are where we are in our society, at least in the United States, is the idea that the humanities are considered useless and that the only worthwhile degrees are based in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. A society needs history, literature, ethics, art, philosophy, and more in order to cultivate a collective sense of emotional intelligence and empathy, rather than focusing solely on the purely tangible. Story 16. Your degree is not a ticket to wealth. It is merely an opportunity for growth and networking on your path to earning significant wealth. As someone who has advanced in the software industry, I have observed top-tier developers with teaching degrees, history degrees, and no degrees at all. One of the quickest promoted individuals at my previous company had no degree but had taught himself to be a true genius. Societal standards do not define your worth, you matter. Story 17. I have a history degree, but I have only been offered one job because of it. My physics degree has resulted in numerous job offers. In my opinion, more people should pursue history degrees. While they may not lead to great employment opportunities, they are worth the effort in many other ways. Story 18. The premise is faulty. There is no such thing as a useless degree. Some individuals may have a better or more direct path to a job, but college is not a vocational school. Story 19. In India, we have a degree called Electronics and Communication Engineering, which is very popular. It is considered challenging, and there are not many job opportunities in the real world. The number of electronics jobs available is very small compared to the population. Yet, people flock to this field despite the limited job market, and most graduates end up in information technology jobs instead. Story 20. None are useless. Even if one does not directly translate into employment, the years of education are all worth it for you and your growth. Story 21. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that any degree is useless. College is not job training, it's education. By graduation, you should be educated, not specialized for one future occupation. While I work in a field related to my degree, very little of what I learned in school pertains to what I do now. Moreover, you are not your job. Having a degree should make you an educated person, not a skilled laborer meant for one purpose. This means being knowledgeable in both recent and ancient history, logic, and philosophy. You should create art, dance, play sports, read classical and modern literature, learn to exercise, and be exposed to the natural sciences and psychology. You should know how to calibrate a telescope, balance a ledger sheet, and, to some extent, perform your job. Specialization is for insects, we are people. Consider the ant with a large head that serves as a door for its colony. Do you really want to be that ant? While it has an important role, its entire existence is dedicated to being a door. As I get older, I find myself reflecting more on my philosophy and critical thinking classes than the computer subjects I studied. I sometimes wish I had minored in philosophy and taken more of those classes. I once thought all that coursework was useless, but I now believe I have gained enough wisdom to realize that what was deemed useless is, in fact, the most important of all. Story 22. I have a bachelor's in psychology, which is often considered useless, and an associate's in computer science, which seems equally unvalued due to artificial intelligence and work being offshored. If anyone here knows how to leverage these two degrees for employment, I would love to hear your suggestions. Story 23. Graphic design seems like a risky choice these days. Many people want to let a computer handle it instead. This is not the intended use of these tools. Story 24. Assuming your main concern is income, All college degrees will generally provide higher earnings compared to just a high school diploma. A student majoring in gender studies may very well have a higher starting income than someone entering a trade. I am not saying that pursuing a trade is a bad choice. It is not. However, I dislike the narrative that dismisses college in favor of trade school as the better option for financial gain. Story 25. There is no useless degree anymore. Almost all white-collar jobs have base-level bachelor's degree requirements. Not having one locks you out of numerous opportunities. While some degrees hold more value than others, no degree is entirely useless. Story 26. Dance. You don't need a degree to get the job. It's all in the audition. There's a specific period during which you can be employed, starting from ages 18 to 20, so the time spent on a degree takes away from that employable period. It is rare to find a single dancer at top ballet companies with a degree in dance. Story 27. Photography degree. Absolutely useless. 90% of what I do daily is sales. The other 10% might look like photography. Want to get into photography? Learn sales first, sell cars, insurance, windows, or whatever. Do that for several years to a decade. Watch online tutorials and keep up to date on shooting styles and editing techniques while doing sales. Trust me, you or your child who is considering this profession will be better for it. Story 28. Really anything related to information technology. The market is extremely saturated while jobs are being shipped overseas. Many new graduates are left in difficult situations. Story 29. One of the most notable examples is a degree in studio arts. While it can be incredibly fulfilling creatively, the job market for studio artists is highly competitive, and many graduates end up working in unrelated fields or struggling to earn a living wage. The degree is not useless, but it often requires additional skills or entrepreneurial spirit to turn it into a sustainable career. Story 30. Philosophy. I have a degree in philosophy. Professionally, I have done well since I graduated 20 years ago, and I use the lessons I have learned in philosophy, largely focusing on logic and argumentation on a daily basis. It is both a seemingly useless and yet profoundly useful degree. Story 31. Trying to predict this is tricky. My younger sister has a theater degree and spent a year at clown school. Now she has a job in marketing, earning more than double what I make as a teacher. Career paths 5 or 10 years after college can appear much less linear than people expect. Story 32. When I was in high school, the career counselor explained that the only possible job for a philosophy major is to be a professor, and the only job openings in that field occur when an existing professor passes away. Story 33. Psychology is not very valuable as a standalone 4-year program. Graduate studies are necessary to pursue a career related to this degree. Story 34. There are degrees with limited career paths and income ceilings that are often criticized as useless in a capitalist context. However, there is no such thing as a useless education. Story 35. My girlfriend is going to college to become a technical writer while minoring in botany. She has an amazing green thumb and can talk for hours about plant growing, but she views technical writing as a means to an end. When I asked her why she wasn't focusing solely on botany, she explained that there are only a few dozen internships for botanists in the United States that accept only the top candidates. The market is so limited that she'd be lucky to get hired as an underpaid florist unless she pursued a Doctor of Philosophy degree. Story 36. I cannot think of a useless major. If pressed, I would probably say a Bachelor of Business Administration is the most useless degree. The only reason for that is if you are in a bachelor's program, you likely lack the real-world experience to put the concepts into context. I say this as someone with a minor in business administration alongside a major in economics. This is why credible Master of Business Administration programs require 5 to 7 years of work experience for admission. Ultimately, a degree program provides a framework for analyzing problems. College is not trade school. Just as economics trains you to seek optimization, gender studies teaches you to understand group dynamics and how systems influence behavior. English or literature provides a framework for cultural translation and examines how different groups interact based on various experiences. All of these fields have value in the working world. However, I must add that there are many individuals who do not recognize that degrees are designed to teach abstract skills that enable independent problem solving. They are not trade schools aimed at teaching practical skills like cabinet making or welding. I would argue that a Juris Doctorate from a poorly regarded law school falls into this category. Many graduates from such schools end up doing low-paying work like document review. In many situations, a fast food worker is earning a similar wage as these lawyers, but without the crippling debt. The issue is that a poor-quality Juris Doctorate often leaves graduates with $150,000 in debt and limited networking opportunities, despite the educational experience aiming to provide valuable skills. Yet, many of those admitted to these programs performed poorly on the law school admission test and had low undergraduate GPAs, indicating that they might have been better off pursuing vocational training from a trade school. Story 37. What annoys me is the immediate criticism of English majors by right-wing individuals. I have a family member with an English major who earns over $200,000 per year as a bank employee. That person will receive 2 pensions upon retirement in about 7 years. Not a bad outcome for an English major. Story 38. Learning for the sake of learning is a positive thing and leads to a well-rounded person. Not everything should be rationalized based on money or what one can earn. As a whole, we are too caught up in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These fields are important, and I say this as a longtime software engineer. However, given the current state of the world, I believe that if we focus more on teaching and learning things like civics, history, and related topics, we would be less likely to face the problems we are currently dealing with. Story 39. What is the difference between a philosophy major and a large pizza? The pizza can feed a family of 4. Story 40. If someone considers a degree to be useless, then the degree is not the problem. Learning can be synthesized in many ways, and trying to narrow a major into job placement viability misses the point of education entirely. Many people engage in interesting professional pursuits outside their field of study. It is possible to be a well-rounded individual with the ability to pursue learning through interest rather than job security. This fixed mindset we have collectively accepted toward education is a disservice to our society. Story 41. Medieval sword fighting theory, unless you plan to become a time traveler or a dedicated Renaissance fair performer. Story 42. One of the regular commuters I see is an operations manager for a large logistics and fleet company. They have a master's degree in medieval art, mainly because they appreciated the visuals rather than wanting to pursue anything in the industry. More important than the degree itself are the soft skills they have learned over the years. Story 43. Basically, everything these days, from technology layoffs to challenges in the sciences, suggests there isn't a safe discipline anymore. Story 44. I believe many film and television production degrees are less necessary now. When I was at university studying film and television production, I needed the degree because I lacked access to equipment. Today, you can shoot entire films and shows on your phone with affordable microphones and other tools at little cost. If you need information, you can simply search for it online. The landscape has changed significantly. Story 45. When I went to college, it is crazy to think it was 10 years ago. Everyone was trying to get into the video game development major when it was first announced during my freshman year. Once it was finalized in the school's curriculum, it offered a Bachelor of Arts degree. This is surprising because video game development heavily relies on the scientific side of things. Instead, the focus was on the design aspect. While this is interesting, it does not benefit students because game developers often do not seek design students, especially since the design classes offered were not art-centric. Many people can say, I want the game to look like X, but actually developing it is another matter. I took 2 courses. One fulfilled my fine arts requirement, and the other was for my business class. Honestly, the fine arts class was the most useless course I ever took. The instructor went on about how teaching video games would be the future and claimed that violent and shooter games would be unpopular by the time we graduated. Instead of designing and building a game, like, for instance, creating and developing a board game, we spent the entire class discussing game theories. I found it extremely frustrating. The business class was taught by a nice instructor with both business and game development experience. However, the students mostly complained about the business practices they disliked instead of studying why game developers began to adopt battle passes, skins, and loot crates, or how to create video game pitches and manage a live games as a service brand. I talked to the instructor after class, and we both agreed the program was inadequate because it did not prepare students for real-world jobs. Unfortunately, he was not allowed to deviate from the course material or make any changes. After my sophomore year, I decided to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, Information Technology, and Information Science. My college allowed students to earn credits for multiple degrees, provided they paid an additional fee for each major. As for my peers in the video game development major, none had obtained jobs in their field since graduation 6 years ago. Out of about 25 people I graduated with, most ended up in retail roles, 1 or 2 went into radio or television, a few became newspaper writers, and 1 entered political journalism. However, I know many individuals who entered game development with a Bachelor of Science degree. Story 46. Some people may see liberal arts, ethnic studies, art history, and communication as useless. However, you can apply these fields to careers such as teaching, administrative support, or other positions involving public speaking. Teaching would still require a credential and a master's degree or doctorate. Nevertheless, a major in these areas could serve as a valuable stepping stone. Story 47. I am tired of the idea that degrees are useless. I earned a degree in English and an advanced degree in literature. Many people consider that useless unless I plan to become a professor. However, the knowledge of grammar and language I gained led me to a career in software engineering. It turns out that computer languages are indeed languages. If you can understand the grammar, everything else is vocabulary. This understanding allowed me to write instructions that the computer could comprehend and execute. Additionally, being able to edit and revise instructions is immensely useful. It is also important to explain to business users why what you are doing is significant, using complete sentences. Moreover, I gained enrichment, experience, and friendships along the way. The point is that college should not merely serve as a trade school. It should focus on teaching critical thinking and self-discovery, which is the real value I derived from my degrees. After 3 decades in software development with only degrees in English, I do not believe my degrees were useless. In fact, I think I would not be here without them. Story 48. In Argentina, journalism can be challenging. Without industry connections, gaining entry is difficult. Additionally, the article titled Journalism and Sociology, The Careers with the Most Regretful Graduates, highlights this issue. Story 49. I am tired of seeing posts like this. Your degree doesn't matter, your experience does. I am the president of a student organization that works with both nonprofit and for-profit companies to provide technical solutions. We also publish research with professors in leading journals. Here are some contributions people in the humanities and arts have made for us. Technical writing. They have helped edit and craft papers that have been published and created newsletters read by over 200 people. Graphic designers have assisted our marketing department in creating engaging infographics. They have designed merchandise for students, created logos, and developed high-fidelity prototypes for our website. Collecting funding and writing contracts for businesses we collaborate with is often done by English students. Philosophy and ethics students ensure that research involving live subjects adheres to all ethical guidelines. 99% of people live their lives on autopilot and do not engage in much outside of what society expects of them. Someone with an English degree involved in initiatives that create business value is far more employable than someone with only a degree in computer science and nothing else to demonstrate. As a technical person, I can recognize the value that humanities students have brought to my organization, and I am grateful to them. I have never regarded their degrees as useless. Story 50. Any degree can seem unhelpful if you do not build connections or gain real-world experience while studying. Story 51. I work in professional politics. I have a Bachelor of Science in Political Science, which feels mostly like fulfilling a requirement for a college degree. Story 52. Purely academic fields such as classical studies can be challenging in terms of job prospects unless one pursues a career in research or academia. Story 53. Degrees in film studies or music theory may not guarantee a job, but for the right person, they open doors to unique careers. Story 54. Liberal arts. I write creatively, sometimes do voiceover work, and translate. Technically, a degree is not required for these activities, at least not in my language pair or for creative writing. I gained my experience through freelancing and conducting my own research since I was in my early teens. People attend college to find work and make social connections. Story 55. I don't think there is a single person from my university fine art photography course still practicing except me. Photos created by artificial intelligence with 10,000 comments saying, "Amazing," underneath give me panic attacks. Story 56. A degree is only as useful as your ability to adapt. Even history majors can find great jobs if they market themselves effectively. Story 57. As someone who attended college to seek employment, I believe that going to college isn't solely about securing a job. The primary focus for many people is driven by the challenges of our economy, which limits our ability to pursue our true interests and compels us to study for financial gain to sustain a decent life. In the past, individuals attended college out of a genuine desire to learn, partly because it was affordable and only required a semester's commitment. Unfortunately, our current economic conditions do not support that ideal. This reflects a shift in our philosophy of life and economic circumstances. Story 58. The value of a college degree lies in demonstrating the ability to complete a process. In this sense, no degree is worthless, especially if it teaches critical thinking and problem-solving skills. For a good return on investment, consider trades at community colleges or medical training. We managed to finance our children's college education. Both attended decent public schools. I sympathize with students who graduate from private schools with degrees that offer marginal earning potential while facing significant debt. Story 59. No form of education is useless. The way we structure society and view intellectual pursuits as only relevant insofar as they can generate an income is flawed. Story 60. Almost everything that isn't based on science, math, or research. Employers seek experience that college does not provide. Story 61. All of them are specifically designed to prevent accidental harm to people and to comply with regulations in the industry. The entirety of human experience and knowledge is at our fingertips. If you want to learn something, you can do it. Want to code? Just do it. Want to write a book? Just do it. Many pursuits rely more on experience than on knowledge, which will develop through practice. For example, I knew someone who attended a prestigious school to learn coding so they could create their own video games, not to work for a development company. They could have developed their own games from the ground up at home without incurring significant debt. Yet I am the bad guy for pointing out their burdensome monthly loan payments. Story 62. Most colleges are not vocational schools. They are institutions of higher learning and critical thinking. Story 63. Anything related to English or creative writing is a challenging field to enter right now due to artificial intelligence undermining much of the process. I say this as a former English major. It's not that human writers are not needed, but I think people outside the major fail to see the value of the degree when there are programs that can entirely automate someone's job. There was also a notable article that came out in early 2023 titled, "The End of the English Major," that effectively addresses the current issues of pursuing a degree in this field. Story 64. In Canada, we have seen an increase in people pursuing these types of degrees since the government started funding education. A person spending someone else's money will spend it imprudently. Story 65. Fine arts can be an intriguing field. I have a friend who earned a Bachelor of Arts in Fine Arts and even studied abroad in Italy. However, she ended up working in a pill factory. She felt very unhappy due to the poor working conditions, low pay, and unpleasant management. Eventually, she decided to quit and return to school for a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering. I hope she finds a career in animatronics or something similar. Story 66. Gender Studies. I have always said you are just applying to McDonald's with extra steps. It never fails to make someone laugh whenever I say it. Story 67. All of them. College is not pre-professional training. It is not about learning a major to get a job. Want a college for that? Start one with majors in pleasing authority, undermining others, and networking studies. Story 68. The problem with this analysis is that whether your degree is useless in the current market isn't the question. It is whether your degree will be useless in the market that exists 2 to 4 years from now. We have demonstrated consistently that we struggle at predicting the future. As a society, we have become mean and lacking in empathy. We all have to make certain bets about the future. Walking up to someone who is struggling with a degree in art history and saying, "You should have thought about that before you chose that degree," is, in my opinion, not much different from walking up to a carpenter who got injured or can't find work after the housing market crash and saying, "You shouldn't have become a carpenter," or approaching someone with a losing lottery ticket and saying, "You should have picked the winning numbers." It is all hindsight, blaming people for things they couldn't have predicted or known. Computer science remains a marketable skill set now. However, I was around in 2002, and I knew many bakers, janitors, and waiters with degrees in computer science. We are overcommit to the ideas of individualism and personal responsibility in a very interdependent society and economy, where the reality is that you have control over far less than you think. Then cognitive bias kicks in. If you are successful, you publish a memoir claiming it is all the result of your good decisions. For the record, I know someone with a degree in art history who has a career she is very proud of, and she is also financially successful. Story 69. I have a friend on Facebook who posted that his daughter, who has a studio arts degree, was having trouble finding work after the coffee shop where she worked closed. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, and I work in information technology in the financial sector. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.